Yo guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. So I've just jumped on today to do my weekly forecast, and this is going to be the weekly forecast for the week commencing the 23rd of May and ending on the 27th of May. And just before we jump into it guys, as usual, I would draw your guys' attention to the written version of this forecast. So everything I'm going to say pretty much is going to be written down in here. I've just completed this written forecast, so this is going to be linked in the video description, guys. So if you want to read my written version of this forecast, then do just click the link in the video description and you can see that for yourself. So guys, if you are grateful for this content also, please do subscribe to the channel because it does help me a lot. Alright guys, so let's jump into the actual forecast. So this week, we're starting again with Nzdusd. Alright, so Nzdusd, what we can see is, just like previous weeks, we're still in this overall bearish structure on the daily. So we were break structure, break structure, break structure. So we know based on that on the daily overall we are in a bearish structure, therefore on the daily a bearish bias. So in terms of looking now on the daily, where can we continue this bearish thesis from? Where do we think is the next point that price is going to start to sell off from to then break again this low? The two areas that I can see that I'm expecting price to sell off from is, firstly, this daily successful retrace order block. So that is essentially what I've marked here, and I will show a refinement of that soon. And then if that doesn't hold, I will expect price to continue upwards to then come up to here, which is the daily impulsive order block. And then when we do get into this area, I will anticipate that price will sell off to once again break this daily structural low, which will just continue that whole bearish situation which we've seen developing in previous weeks and months. So that's my view of Nzdusd on the daily. We are in a bearish trend, but I don't anticipate that we're going to continue to then break structure again until we tap into this daily successful retrace OB, or failing that, if we do get back up here, I will still be anticipating sells to come away from here. So in terms of what's actually going to happen this week, I think we really need to focus on obviously what's going to happen in the next few days. Now, as we can see guys, it took 7 days, so 7 trading days for us to make that final leg of bearish structure on the daily, and then since then we have now had 7 days of bullish structure on the daily. So considering that right now coming into this week, what I'm anticipating is that we are just going to see a continuation of this bullish counter trend price action, which will then take us up back into this daily SR. So I'll show you that on the 4 hour now guys. Alright, so the 4 hour, last week I spoke about, we may just continue the sell thesis out of there, but we did have a small reaction and then it's continued upwards. So what I'm essentially seeing now, since we broke structure here on the 4 hour, to me that signifies that we have now finished with this bearish leg here and that we are now looking at this counter trend move. So the counter trend move to take us back into the daily OB here has actually started now. So following that, what we've had, very simply, we've had a break of structure on the 4 hour. So that left behind this bullish order block here. And we know that we've got this daily order block here. So my refinement of the daily order block is based on this 4 hour candle. And we can see that we've got clear imbalance there just below it. So for me personally, it makes a lot of sense now for price to continue 130 pips at least to get us up to here before we can then look to sell off away from there. So guys, in the shorter term, so hopefully Monday to Wednesday next week, I will anticipate that price is going to retrace back into here. So we'll see a small bearish move at the start of next week. That'll bring us down into this order block here, either into this candle here or into this more extreme candle down here. And then once we've tapped into there, we can look for lower time frame confirmations to then take buys, and that should see us through next week, which will take us up to this daily order block. So for me, NU is very clean at the minute. This is what I'm seeing. We're going to see the retracement, the buys away from the 4 hour bullish order block, and then that will take us up to this daily OB. So, like I say, I'm not super sure if we're going to get up there next week, just based on the momentum of this price action here. We're probably going to take most of the week to get up to this OB here. But if we do end up here next week, then when we do get up to this daily order block, I will be happy to take sells, and I do think that sells is a pretty high probability coming out of here, and then that will take us into that new daily lows that I spoke about. So Nzdusd going into the week, looking for bullish opportunities out of this 4-hour order block, and then that should take us up to here. When we get into the daily order block, then I'll be looking for bearish opportunities to sell away from there. And then of course, if we do break past that daily order block, we've still got this order block up here. So if we do break past there, then we can continue with the counter trend buys and then look to sell out of there. However, like I say, I do think that we'll sell from here. So until we see this strong high broken on the daily, I am expecting this level to hold, and then we'll see new lows made. So that is NU this week, guys. If there's anything that I've not explained clearly there, just leave a comment and I'll explain that to you. Alright, so AUD USD, almost an identical situation, so I won't spend ages on it. We've got the bearish trend on the daily. So in terms of where to continue the bearish thesis from, we've either got the daily SR order block or the daily impulsive order block. Now, looking at a 4-hour, we have had that bullish break of structure now. So just like on Nzdusd, I do think that we've started the retracement back up to here. You know, I don't think, because I would have anticipated if we were just going to continue down that we would have held that wick there. So now we've broken this wick, I do think that we're going to continue up so that we can come into this daily successful retrace order block before we then see it break down. So pretty much identical to Nzdusd. What I'm looking for is a retracement into the 4-hour OB, which calls that most recent 4-hour break structure. And my refinement of it is based on a 15-minute imbalance. As you guys can see here, we've got imbalance above that candle. So for me, that's the reason why I've marked out this lower area, because that is my ideal refinement. But in fairness, it could go from anywhere from there to there and it still fulfill the same thesis on the 4-hour. But yeah, the overall idea is just to basically buy following the 4-hour bullish OB, and that should take us up to then mitigate this daily successful retrace OB, and then when we get into that, we can look for sells out of there. So it's literally identical to Nzdusd in terms of the actual structure, and that is my plan for both pairs this week. So that's what I'll be looking at going into the week. Alright, so let's go on to pound dollar. Now, honestly, all these pairs are pretty similar, the XSUSD. So pound dollar on the daily, we're in a bearish trend. We've got the daily SR order block and the daily imp order block. So when we get into the SR, I will be expecting that area to hold, and then that will hopefully we'll see the institutional supply coming in at that area, and that will take us into new daily lows. Now, failing that, if we do break it, I will anticipate price to continue upwards at that point to then take us into this daily impulsive order block. When we do get up there, we can look for sells away from there, but that is probably a few weeks away if that is going to happen. So for now, I'd recommend just focusing on this structure down here. So looking at what's going on now, for me, we've not actually tapped into my refinement of the daily SR yet, because I'd expect it to come at least to this wick here, but more ideally up into this candle here. Either way, we've not made it there yet in terms of getting into this daily SR, so I think we've still got a reason to look for buys early next week. Now, looking at the clean, I looked at the different hourly time frames. For me, the 3 hours were cleanest. So we had our first break on the 3-hour, and then we've had our second break on the 3-hour. Now, for me, that's left behind this clear order block, and this wick here is basically the order block that I have marked out the whole last bearish candle. And that 3-hour successful retrace or B, that should be a good place to look for buys from. So for me, going into next week, the first thing I'm looking for is for price to retrace down for buys, and that'll take us up to the daily SR. When we get into this daily order block, once we're in there, then I'll be absolutely happy to look for sells out of there, and I will be anticipating that that's going to take us into new lows on the daily. Now, what I've also marked, I do personally think that this 3-hour SR, we are likely to see price come down there. However, what I've also marked is this 15-minute impulsive OB. So what we could just see is, because if you think from the perspective, if we're going up into the daily and then we're going to come down, it's not necessarily super important to fill this imbalance because they're going to fill it anyway on the way back down away from the daily successful retrace OB. So on the 15-minute, what I can see, we had a break structure 1, break structure 2, so that's left behind this order block here. So for me, this is a valid order block, and what we could just see on the 15-minute is price comes down into here, and then we'll start to see rejections coming in out of there, and then we can get our lower time frame buys in the market, and then price may just come out of this area to travel that 100 pips to take us up into that daily successful retrace order block. So that is pound dollar this week. The main picture I'm drawing is that we've got this 3-hour successful retrace OB, and I will be looking for price to go down there before then coming up here. Then once we are up in successful retrace on the daily, we can look to sell away from that. However, what I'm also aware of is that we've got the 15-minute bullish trend, and that's basically the invalidation of the bullish trend on the 15 minutes. So until we see this area broken, I am expecting this to hold. So like I say, we may just see that price is going to go from this 15-minute order block, and it's not going to have to come all the way back down to a 3-hour order block. So guys, that is GU this week, and I'll be looking initially at the 15-minute order block for buys, and then failing that, I'll be anticipating buys out of a 3-hour order block, and then once we do end up here, I'll be looking for sells out of the daily order block. Alright, so let's have a look at EU this week. So EU, and I promise guys, the next two pairs are a bit different, but EU is very similar. Again, we've got the bearish trend overall on the daily. We've got the daily successful retrace order block and the daily impulsive order block. So in terms of the daily, what I'm anticipating is that price is going to retrace deeper into this successful retrace order block, and then it will continue with the sells out of there, and that'll take us into new lows like I've shown with this path tool here. Now, of course, again, and I presume that it's going to be a similar outcome on all these pairs, if this SR level doesn't hold, so if this doesn't hold and the price fails to push away from this strong high here, then I will anticipate still that we are going to sell off eventually, but I will expect that retrace up to the daily impulse order block before we then sell off. So that's what I'm seeing on the daily on EU. Now again, the first thing that we really want to focus on is this leg of structure here. So if, you know, until this leg of structure is violated, whatever's going on up here isn't really important. So right now, if we look at the 4-hour, my refinement again is based on that wick candle there. Now, we've not actually touched into that yet, so we've no reason to push away and break new lows at this moment right now. So what I can see is that we've got this 4-hour break of structure, so we know that the counter trend move started, and we're anticipating the counter trend move to take us into this order block, which of course we've not tapped into yet. So for me, what I've also got is a 4-hour bullish order block, which caused this 4-hour break of structure, which is counter trend. So what I'm anticipating at the start of next week, price will just trickle down into this 4-hour bullish order block. After we get into there, we can look for buys. Those buys will take us up to this order block here. Now, you know, obviously the risk reward doesn't look good, but I won't be entering with a 47 pip stop loss. So if you can get in with, you know, a 5 pip stop loss, you can get a decent move out of this trade. It's still 100 pips. So when we get into the 4-hour bullish order block, I'll be watching the minute time frames, looking for my confirmation entry, looking for my entry model, and then I'll look to capitalize on this move here. Now, once we get into this daily extreme, like with the other USD pairs, I will be looking for sells out of this daily level here. So for me, the outlook this week on EU, we're looking for buys first thing next week out of the 4-hour OB, and then once we surpass this high and we reach into this OB, I'll expect price to reverse. So I'll be looking to take most of my profits off at that point if I do get in this trade, and then I'll be expecting price to continue down from this area to then break new lows on the daily. And of course, like I say, if we do just violate this strong high, then I'll anticipate price to come back up here, but I'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Alright, so that is EU guys, and like I say, if you've got any questions, then do just leave a comment, and if you want to see the written version, then click the link in the description. Alright guys, so let's have a look at Euro Pound this week. So Euro Pound, it's a pretty complex situation, I'd say, overall this week. So what we've had is on the weekly, we've got break structure to the high. So the weekly has shown that bullish intent basically. So based on that, you know, for me now, it won't be surprising if we just see the buys continue and follow through with that weekly intent. So looking at the daily then, what we had just like last week, we've got two bullish breaks of structure. What that's left behind is two reference points for us to look for buys from, so two bullish order blocks that we can then look to buy from. So we've got our daily successful retrace OB, and we've got the daily impulsive OB down here. So for me, from a daily perspective, what I am anticipating is that price is going to buy up either from this area here, this whole area, or if it doesn't do that, and if we do break through, so we fail to hold the daily successful retrace, I'm still anticipating buys to come into the market, but I do think they will just come in from further down in this area down here. So the question now for me going into the start of this week is really if this successful retrace or beat is going to hold or not, and that's something that you'll have to decide for yourself, but I'm going to show you my perspective on the hourly time frames now. So what I'm basically looking to do is follow the hourly time frames, and if we can get that bullish structure coming out of this area, then I'll be more than happy to get involved. And if not, I will anticipate that the bearish structure will continue to take us down there. Alright, so looking at the 4 hour, we had that break structure last week, which I spoke about, and we did respect that after a liquidity grab before then doing a new impulsive leg on the 4 hour. So looking at the 4 hour, we are undoubtedly in a bullish structure right now. From here to here, we're in a clear bearish structure. And looking at what's happened last week, we've actually tapped into the 4 hour supply, which was left behind after this reaction, and now price has failed to break. What we've also seen on that is that the 1 hour structure was broke by this candle here, and then that basically ended up being a liquidity grab, and then we've seen a bearish structural break there before price has then pushed down, come back up to mitigate, and then push down again. So for me, what I'm seeing, the 4 hour structure is bearish, and at the end of the day, until the 4 hour structure switches, it's not really that likely that price is just going to start going bullish. So for me, whilst we do have the overall daily bullish idea, I do think that this one down here seems more probable just because the 4 hour is very bearish, and last week we have literally held from this supply OB in the bearish situation. Now, that said, what we've got on the 1 hour, which came out of the daily successful retrace, is this order block here, which is super clear, caused a very impulsive move, and it's got imbalance there. So for me, the real decider of whether we're going to be looking to sell down to take us into this area or continue buys away from the daily successful retrace is going to be how price reacts to this 1 hour candle here. So for me, this 1 hour candle is either just going to be a liquidity point, and then we can just continue below that, and we can look to then trade down to take us 100 pips further down to the daily imp. Or if we do hold it, then I will be happy to look for buys out of there to then follow away from the daily SR. So guys, pretty much this week we've got this opportunity here. We can continue out of here, and then that is basically betting on the daily SR holding, and we'll expect new highs broken. Failing that, and like I say guys, I'm not super confident in that just because we have got this 4 hour supply OB in place, which has held so far. So failing that, we can just look for sell structures on the 1 hour, and that can just be seen as following away from this 4 hour supply OB to then take us into this area down here. So really this week we've got, if we're going to hold this, then it could be a good opportunity for buys. So we have got that as a buying opportunity. If this area here fails, then I'll be looking at the structure, looking to get a sell entries, and that is a continuation away from the 4 hour supply to then take us down on this path to the daily imp. And then guys, when we do get down there into the daily imp, I will be expecting buys. So once we get down there guys, I will be expecting buys, and I will be looking for buying opportunities using most likely the 1 hour time frame. So that is what I'm seeing on EG. Like I say, guys, it's a bit complicated this week. If you want any clarification, then do just leave a comment, but hopefully I've explained what I'm seeing there. So finally, this week, pound yen. So sorry, this bit's a bit messy, but you'll see it in a minute. What we've got on the daily. So we've got free break structure bullish. So we know that overall we're in a bullish trend and a bullish situation on the daily. However, the most recent breaker structure on the daily was bearish. So right now we are in a bearish structure in terms of the last breaker structure was bearish. So we've now got a range which is from this high to this low, and that range has an inherent bearish bias within it. So for me, what I am anticipating based on that range is that we're now retracing up into this range, and then this wick here. But I've marked the whole area up here, but it is mainly this wick. What's going to happen is price is going to continue upwards, take us into this area here, and then once we do get into that area, we'll start to then sell off, and that will complete this bearish move, take us back down to this bullish order block down here, and then we can continue away from a bullish order block. Now, I don't think that we're going to end up down here for a few weeks, so I think this week it's really going to be dominated by this counter trend move, and then if this happens fast enough, we could see price start to react from this daily order block to then begin this bearish move down. So guys, this week I'm just going to show the 1 hour. So last week, well done if you got in the trade that I forecasted. I did forecast this order block here on the 1 hour to continue for buys, and we did actually get a 440 pip move out of that order block. So a really nice trade last week. Unfortunately, myself didn't manage to catch it because I don't like to take the trade based on the 1 hour. The risk reward is not good enough for me, and I didn't see an entry on the lower time frame at the times when I was trading. So that is unfortunate, but it was still a good move nonetheless. So continuing with that whole bullish situation on the 1 hour. So remember, the purpose of this bullish move is to take us up into this area here on the daily. So until we tap into this area, I do anticipate that we are just going to be continuing with the bullish structure. So what I can see is on the 1 hour now, we've had this whole impulsive leg. Now that impulsive leg originated down here in this area here. What we can see is price has come into this area here and then failed to break below it. So we're respecting the bullish demand. So for me, this is evidence that institutional demand is holding out of this area, and that the institutions now are going to keep pumping the buy orders into the market to push the price up here so that they can mitigate this order block. Now, looking at the 30-minute, what we've had after we went into there, we had the first break structure on the 30 minutes, so that shows us our intent. So at this point, we don't know is price going to continue or not. We then had price come right back down. It came into here, which actually mitigated this intent move. So, this is further evidence that the institutions are active buying out of this area. They've caused this, they've then caused a mitigation. That's why we've now got our order flow invalidation. And then we've seen them break structure again. So this is why on the 30-minute now, we're in a confirmed bullish order flow. So for me, the institutions are in full bullish order flow now, so I am just anticipating that the bullish order flow will continue until we reach this daily situation up here. So in terms of how to get involved, well, for me, I've marked out it's still, we've got imbalance here, right? So it's still valid for price to come back down, even though it's already been tapped into. The way I understand, it's still valid, but price can come back down into this area, and then it will still just respect the order flow and continue. So if we do see something like that, then I won't be surprised, and I think that's absolutely fine, and then we'll go up there. However, I do think that there's a good chance that this 30-minute SR will hold, because what's basically happened is price has broke structure again, and that originated from down here, and that did have imbalance. Now, obviously, this has already been filled now, so it's been tapped into. So what I'm really seeing is that the move away from this order block to take us up into this order block up here has already started. So going into the start of next week, I think really it's just a case of watching, like, if you're looking to trade out of here, then watching the 15 minutes and below time frames for bullish structure, and hopefully that bullish structure can continue to take us up into this area here. So if this bullish order flow does continue, we've got a pretty decent opportunity to capitalize on, because there's like 350 pips there. So that's what I'm anticipating, is that going into next week, we are just going to see buys coming through on pound yen, continuing this bullish order flow. And the objective of that, from an institutional perspective, is to come up here. And also, guys, be aware there's liquidity above. There's liquidity above here, and there's liquidity above here, and there's liquidity between those areas as well. So there's a lot of confluence in my mind anyway. There's a lot of confluence for this bullish move. So for this one, I am confident. So guys, that is pound yen for me this week. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the forecast today. I hope you guys got value out of the forecast, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel, because I'm super grateful for all the subscribers that I get. So guys, please have a safe trading week. Stick to your trading plans. Most importantly, stick to your risk management. Don't over risk, don't over trade. So guys, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys all have a good week. See you guys next week.